It's official. Apple recently announced that the iPod Touch 7th generation was being discontinued, symbolically putting an end to the series of devices which probably had the biggest impact on portable music listening since the Sony Tape Walkman way back in the 80s. And before you say it, I know you can still get many other standalone digital audio players, which probably offer much more to the audiophile than the iPod Touch. But for those of us of a certain age, it was indeed a sad day. So the question we have to ask, now that Apple has ditched its only remaining standalone music player, is whether Apple still cares about audiophiles. So let's start with Apple Music itself, the program formerly known as iTunes. With Apple Music, the focus is very much on accessing the Apple Music streaming service. You can, of course, still use Apple Music as an offline music player, although I'd argue that both on the iPhone and the Mac there are better pieces of software available for that purpose. I can even do a video on those if you'd like to see one in the future, just let me know. Confusingly, Apple Music is a very different beast, offering different functionality whether you're running it on the Mac, an iOS device, or Android. If you are still using Apple Music on Windows, you will still be using iTunes, which staggers on like a rather dodgy looking zombie. Now, I like the Apple Music streaming service. I have it included with my mobile plan here in the UK, and for those of us with large offline music collections, it allows us to easily mix and match online streaming as well as our own offline files into single playlists. I like the discovery features, particularly the track-based radio stations, which have, I think it's fair to say, introduced me to some brilliant new music over the years. What I think's really cool about Apple Music, though, is the fact that it streams lossless music, CD quality at the very least, if not high res, for the same price as lossy music. Remember, Spotify has still not got round to offering a lossless streaming tier. Apple Music is also cheaper than many competing lossless or high-res streaming services. I think Amazon Music is still the only one that's cheaper if you are a Prime subscriber. Pretty much the whole Apple Music catalogue is available in CD quality lossless, with very many also being available in higher res. The tricky thing about Apple Music, though, is that it's actually really hard to get that bit-perfect lossless playback. I did a video about how to go about doing that last year. Do go and check it out. In order to get bit-perfect playback, you need to use wired headphones or speakers connected via an external DAC. On Android phones, sadly, it's impossible to get bit-perfect playback, as Apple Music can't bypass the Android resampling algorithm. It will work, however, on Android digital audio players, which have built-in bypassing of the Android sample rate conversion. The other big problem with Apple Music is that it isn't integrated into very many high-end audio hardware products. So there's no way of accessing Apple Music within Roon, for example. As far as I'm aware, the only hardware manufacturer that integrates Apple Music into its products and software directly is Sonos. You can, of course, stream Apple Music to many of the hi-fi devices that are available via AirPlay 2 functionality. Many high-end hi-fi devices have this built in. But this AirPlay 2 is imperfect as it limits the bitrate and resolution of the files, and it also relies on your device, whether it's an iDevice or a Mac, being turned on and connected to the internet in order to stream. Unlike something like Spotify or Tidal Connect, which hands off the stream directly to the hardware. Let's talk about spatial audio, which Apple made a huge fuss over when it was announced along with the high-res streaming. Essentially, I still think it's mainly a gimmick, apart from a very few examples which really do sound excellent in the Atmos mix. One of these is that audiophile cliche Norah Jones's Come Away With Me album, which sounds lush, to be fair, in any format, but the recent 2022 remaster, I think it was released a few weeks ago, it really does sound awesome in the Apple spatial audio mix. So on the whole, I like Apple Music, but I think it needs to decide whether it wants to carry on as just a Spotify competitor, which I'd argue it is at the moment, or to go toe-to-toe with high-end streaming such as Tidal and Qobuz. So let's move on to the hardware then, and do bear in mind that I'm not going to talk about the Apple-owned Beats products. So let's focus on the AirPods family, the AirPods Pro and the AirPods Max. Now, regardless of which model of AirPods you go for, you need to know that they all use AAC as their Bluetooth streaming codec, which is somewhat disappointing, particularly in the case of the £549 AirPods Max. So remember, if you are playing high-res music from Apple Music, you're not actually getting a high-res stream through any of your AirPods, including the AirPods Max. All the AirPods models share Apple-exclusive smart features such as instant pairing and being linked automatically to all your Apple devices. What this does mean, though, is that unless you use them with an Apple device, you'll be missing out on almost all of the AirPods' most attractive features. And remember, there's no app on Android or on Windows that allows even basic functionality such as firmware updates. So I wouldn't really recommend AirPods at all if you don't have any other Apple products. So in terms of the range, the basic AirPods come in at £119 for the old school second generation and £169 for the new design third generation. Apart from having a newer shape and different tuning, the third generation AirPods have also got a slightly longer battery life, IPX4 water resistance, wireless and MagSafe charging as standard, and support for spatial audio with head tracking. Now, I must admit I hated the second generation AirPods, mainly because I could never ever get them to stay in my ears properly, but also because I thought they sounded pretty poor. The fact that they have no noise isolation means that you end up having to crank up the volume to unhealthy levels when you're in noisy environments such as the gym or on public transport. I donated my second generation AirPods to my teenage son, who promptly lost them. The third generation AirPods I found to be an improvement over the second generation in both fit and sound quality. Their new shape meant that I could actually get them to stay in my ears more securely, but not when I was running or anything like that. Once again, however, the lack of noise isolation meant that the volume had to really be cranked up. However, the sound quality, as long as you're listening in a quiet environment, is much better than the second generation AirPods. There's actually some bass there. The best AirPods model, for me anyway, remains the first generation AirPods Pro. They are getting a bit long in the tooth now, but they still offer three great features: secure fit with the silicone ear tips, passive and active noise cancellation, as well as the best tuning of any of the AirPods family. Now, I have done a little mod, so I've exchanged the silicone tips for foam tips, which makes the sonic performance as well as the comfort much better. I did a video on that a while ago if you want to go and check that out. Sonically, with the AirPods Pro, you get a mild V-shaped tuning but with excellent clarity, and it's a lively sounding pair of earbuds. There's just enough bass punch to inject plenty of energy, and a tasteful treble uplift adds a bit of sparkle. Mid-range response is pretty flat, giving vocals and most instruments plenty of room to breathe. It's rumoured that Apple are about to release the second generation AirPods Pros, and I'll be really fascinated to see what Apple does with them. I hope they don't meddle with the sound too much. The main downside to the AirPods Pro is the poor battery life. Now, Apple quotes 4.5 hours listening time on a single charge with active noise cancelling on, which is clearly not going to last you a long-haul flight. If they can find some way of boosting that to the 6 or 7 hours you get from competitors, leave alone the 8 hours you get from the Sony 1000XM4s, I'll be very happy. Okay, and on to the big daddies, the super expensive AirPods Max. £549 is certainly a premium price, but are they premium in any other way? Well, the build quality, if you ignore the shockingly awful case, which we won't mention, certainly is premium. But this choice of metal does mean that they are relatively heavy and somewhat fatiguing to wear compared to lighter plastic rivals such as the Sonys. How about the sound quality? All in all, I really am not a huge fan of the way the AirPods Max sound. Mainly because I think the tuning's not great. It's a U-shaped curve with sub-bass extension as well as a higher treble boost. Interestingly though, the lower treble is actually scooped a bit to reduce harshness and sibilance. The mid-range is pretty good though, it's flat and there's definitely good instrumental separation. What all this adds up to though is an acceptable but strangely clinical, unengaging listen. And I think it's far worse than what you get on the AirPods Pro. The music just lacks energy, and it all feels a bit woolly with no clear sense of imaging. So why have I kept mine? Well, because they have until recently been the best of a bad bunch of active noise cancelling Bluetooth headphones. They simply don't justify their price tag sonically, and with the release of the better sounding Sonys, I'm going to be ditching my AirPods Max. But hey, that transparency mode is good, so there's that. If Apple does release a second generation model, here's my wish list of features. Number 1, they need to rethink the tuning. Even making them sound more like the AirPods Pro would be a decent start. Number 2, they need to come with a proper case and a 3.5mm cable. Number 3, they need to support a higher quality streaming codec. And number 4, they need to be a little lighter and more comfortable to wear for extended periods. So there you have it. Apple's audio strategy is not quite as cohesive as the rest of their product line, and I do hope that they fix this situation. At the moment, if you have an iDevice, an Apple Music subscription does make a lot of sense. Access to high quality, lossless music, which remember Spotify doesn't give you, is a brilliant feature. AirPods themselves are unbeatable in terms of synergy and convenience if you're an Apple user, but sonically, in my opinion, the only model of the current AirPod lineup which will satisfy audiophiles on the go is the AirPods Pro. Now, I can't be the only one wishing that Apple would release a full-on high-resolution iPod Anniversary Edition or something with a headphone jack and a high-quality DAC that's capable of playing back all those beautiful Apple Music lossless streams. I think that's pretty unlikely now with the recent announcement, so we'll have to content ourselves with the hope that Apple will crack some way of streaming lossless audio to improved audio hardware. Remember, WWDC is just around the corner, so let's hope that us audio fans get some announcements to become excited about, eh? So those are my thoughts, guys. As always, let me hear yours in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, as always. Stay safe. I'll see you in the next video.